you. For treatment. Okay, Dr. Cable, Ms. Carlina, present. Mr. Castillo, Ms. Coleman, present. Ms. Gaines, Ms. Hoover, present. Ms. Lawson, present. Mr. Myers,
Here.
Ms. Miller, present. Ms. Oaken, Mr. Salter. You have 7, which does represent 4. Move on to introduction of announcements.
We actually have a new employee with us on the START team, Mr. June Washington back here. He is the START's new deposit specialist. He joins us, again, he's going to be assisting with the enrollment verifications, account maintenance, opening accounts, payroll deductions, etc. He previously worked as a branch manager for Investment Bank. And he also taught 8th grade mathematics in the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. He also holds a bachelor's degree in business management from the illustrious Southern University at Baton Rouge. Again, help me welcome.
Announcements for retirements.
It is great that it's happiness and sadness for John. He was with us for 33 years. He was such a great contributor to LOSFA, but it's on to his next life. And we wished him the best, celebrated his retirement, and we do have a person that replaced Mr. John, who's already employed with LOSFA. So the transition is happening now.
Congratulations.
Yes, she is not in the office currently right now. She'll be in soon, but in the START team as well, Ms. Terry Jameson, our IT programmer, she will officially retire from law school in June after 28 years of state service. If I'm not mistaken, she also served in the military prior to joining law school. So from LOSFA and START alike, we both wish her very well with this in her next, in her retirement life, for the time of those grandbabies, and we're just thankful for the time we had.
On to our minutes. So the minutes were in your pocket. So we gave everybody a minute to review those.
I'll make the motion.
Christie makes the motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mary Catherine. And all in favor say aye. Nays. Motion carries. The next is public comment. Brian, are we receiving public comment at this time?
No, there's not.
And now we'll go into program updates with Able update first.
Yes. So with the START Savings Program, for our March numbers, we have about 81,000 accounts, with 1.6 billion depositing into those accounts. For the START K-12 program, we have over 4,000 accounts with about 37 million invested in those accounts. And in the LA Able account, there's 1,500 accounts with 10 million invested, totaling 1.6 billion altogether. As predicted from the last meeting, we did expect for those numbers to fluctuate with account owners requesting those disbursements for enrollment deposit fees for the fall for those incoming freshmen, and as well as summer school tuition for those returning students as well.
Now we have college access, success, and communications.
So for past full screen, you'll see the events that we have done since July 1. So we have a total of 773 events. We have some across face-to-face, which is maybe the vote, and then also virtual events. And then as far as virtual office hours are concerned, kind of everything is going to transfer that. You'll notice that AJ Foster outpaces TOPS retention right now. And also, I would like to call attention to the counselor virtual office hours, which those were instituted kind of towards the end. But that's where counselors can speak with Haley to get information like about or if they have any questions. And then FAFSA assistance is a strong number 3 with 30 of those sessions conducted. And our comprehensive advising officer, or former comprehensive advising officer, Trudy TJ, completed her NCAN certified advisor badge. And so for those who may not be aware, Trudy has stepped into the role of the outreach coordinator for the adults and non-traditional learners. And this is where I will put in a shameless plug, because I am also a member of the Capital City Obedience Club, which is the oldest AKC dog club in the back of the chair, founded in 1963. And so this is, they came, Biden Buddies is a part of LCCOC, supported by ourselves, but they came and brought their furry friends to come and have a dog therapy day. And it was funny because we were out there like on the lawn and like other employees from other divisions were passing by, like, what's happening over there? So some DEQ employees, some other people in the building had the opportunity as well to come and visit the dogs. And so they were very much thrilled at all the attention, and Malarkey, which is one of the border colleagues, was just insisting that somebody throw a pine cone the entire time they were here. So for our Salesforce case activity, this is kind of on trend with what we looked at last month as far as our intake and assistance officers and our outreach coordinators, kind of having those cases, they are closing a little bit faster, they're resolving issues, as opposed to the comprehensive advising officers who continue to kind of maintain those long-term case loads that they have. And then if you look at the next slide, you'll see that you'll see that the kind of breakdown of activity is about the same, with the bulk of the cases either falling in students looking for additional financial assistance or having a combination of issues that need to be addressed. And next slide.
Try. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So for statewide FAFSA completion support, I'm sure everyone has probably seen the article about Louisiana's FAFSA rankings. And so one of the things that's actually really interesting about this is that we're now at 41.4% and ranked 28. And if you look at a comparison of where we were about this time last year, we're actually about 1,000 applications ahead of where we were last year. The thing is that other states are also moving the needle. And so it's not that we are not performing, we are doing actually a little better than we did last year, but other states have taken the challenge seriously as well in regards to better FAFSA and kind of improving upon some of the missteps that have been recycled. So what we have done is that since we like to make work for ourselves, we have emailed over 180 schools, basically to let them know that we are underneath the national average, that we are available to assist. And so shameless plug for one of our comprehensive advising officers who was kind of located in the Orleans area. We had some of the emails bounce back. And so she told our outreach coordinator, just go to the school which is what she did, and she was able to get a number of schools signed up for a FAFSA. And so really excited about that. We have some other things in the work as well, to kind of continue support as we go into the summer. Next.
With the FAFSA outreach, did you see an uptick in completions after you sent the emails and did the not?
We are still sending, it was a huge bulk of emails, but we have seen some that have come in. So of course, we'll kind of track that afterwards to see how many that we've got. But we have seen some schools that have responded to that. She's also sending emails to the authorized requesters, who are the ones who see their district's data, to let them know, like, your district is, this is where you are. And they also have contact with all of those students to do a push as well.
Please remind me generally that these graduation the non-requirement for filling out the FAFSA kicks in.
It was with this class.
This class, so they don't have this class, yeah, this is the first class. Okay. Well, that's great, that's great that you're not saying.
Yeah, we've also, in that email, reminded them that, hey, it might not be a graduation requirement, but if the students are anticipating receiving TOPS, they have to do some sort of application. Just to avoid kind of over the summer surprise, like, why do I have TOPS? It's like, you didn't do an application. So trying to reinforce that, we've also put something out on social media as well, like, hey, it's not a graduation requirement, but if you want to be eligible for TOPS or be like have your eligibility considered, you need to either do a FAFSA or do a TOPS online.
And when do you recompute what's the state average for ACT? Because that's also part of.
That's actually ACT compute.
Okay, but isn't,
It comes out in October when y'all
there's
actually.
something that we tie in what the TOPS award is based on the average ACT.
Opportunity award, TOPS opportunity award is tied into the average ACT, but it's state law states it can never be below 20. So if the state average is a 19.4, it's still 20. And it's out there, not actually 18.2 right now.
Yeah.
So typically what happens is that they will, because they used to give that information to us sooner, because we used to like be able to print it out like in the fall and just flat out say 20. But now you'll see language that says never less than, like, equal to the previous year's state average, but never less than the 20. Because when they added the July testing, it pushed back when they were able to give us whatever the state average was. So usually it's not till like October. Yeah.
Around October 15th this year.
I have a question for you. You know that report that you guys would send the district and it would have students' names and it was submitted with an error, without errors? Do y'all still send that out? Because I haven't seen that this year. And I wondered if when the requirement went away, it went away too.
No, it should still go out because we've gotten questions from some of the coordinators about the information that they're getting. A lot of students are not showing up. So we'll have to check and see who the authorized requester is for.
I just know that, like, I mean, at this point, I have only been able to go on if the students send me proof or not, but listening to you right now, I'm thinking, okay, there are some students, like, we had a student, we had a career fair and one of the representatives was there and we had an issue with the way the new better FAFSA is. And so I was like, hey, can you just talk to the student about them trying to go to school? Because I don't even know where he stands. And it was gonna be an error regardless because of like a parental situation. It was very complicated. We can figure that out. I was like, okay, that's fine, but don't have the conversation. But I wouldn't have even known had the student not come to me about it, you know? So I was just wondering, because I know it was delayed and then I just haven't gotten it. So I was like, maybe they just don't send it because the requirement changed, but.
Yeah, it goes to the authorized requester and then the authorized requester distributes it to whoever is in their district. I'll check for you.
The authorized requester for change of
I don't know
title,
who it is.
it's Lisa Mazzell.
I just meant, maybe it just hasn't gone trickled down. We've had some retirees happen, so.
I'm sorry, Jess, that's one more question that this may or may not happen. What happens if the state average goes up on the ACT a lot because we're having fewer students taking these?
Because of the requirement going away that they don't have to take.
Yes. So
If the state average.
if the state average goes up to, on the ACT to 22, then all of the activity were just.
That would be the floor for opportunity.
Yeah, okay.
Which is also.
That's a possibility, isn't it? I mean, if they're.
I foresee it being a very strong possibility, because if the students aren't required, it's only gonna be the ones that choose to. And the ones that choose to are probably gonna take it seriously, and I foresee that going really high, but it's gonna take about 1 to 2 years. Because they just were mandated to take it, the juniors this year, so therefore they haven't graduated, so it'll be the sophomores right now, about the time that they graduate, so. I do see that happening, that's my concern too, is like, what happens when it goes to like 25 and, you know, like, I'm not saying that it will go that high, but it might. I just foresee it going a lot higher, because you have those jumpstart students that aren't taking it, unless they want to. But,
And removing science,
ma'am,
and removing science may have an effect.
oh, yes, sir, that part too,
Yeah.
that's another part of it.
I think it's also an interesting bill that I saw yesterday that is looking to mandate high school graduation based on standardized ACT test score rather than exit exams.
But if you read the bill, it said that the SE has to promulgate rules to ensure that it does not lower the graduation.
Right, with low
So that-
graduation rates, but it would increase the completion of ACTs.
Right, if they don't wanna do
If they don't want to do it, they have to graduate them, so that'd be interesting to watch that.
Well, before the state with the census state did not have, I mean, I think it might have been around 2021 at most, but it wasn't 25, it wasn't that high, they tested everyone.
Well,
I go back and pull old data, but it was never that high.
and then looking at the changes in the school score, like it's an ACT of 20, which I believe goes to, is at the top part right there. I do think that that's how they made that connection, or a work keys gold. Well, a lot of the students in silver, they can get top, they're eligible to top second in silver, so like it's putting that right there, that pressure line for a lot of school scores, and so that changes happening next year. So once that happens, there's gonna be a lot of things that are gonna need to be looked at, because how will you be able to do all of these things that you set the standard, but what happens for these people that are not there yet?
Y'all, like. GPA data prior to the final transfer, mid-year, senior year GPA, kind of to give you an indicator of where a student might fall as it relates to top eligibility prior to the last semester of high school. So.
It's in the top strategy where a student can do it, but we don't pull it into our system, and so it's certified as graduation, we have to pull it into the system for cost processing. So we don't have a mechanism that would allow us to like pull all of them together and program things to try and maybe do like a mid-year or
Well,
something.
And the reason I was asking is because, so you're kind of talking about trying to get students who are top eligible their FAFSA. You already get a copy of the FAFSA once it's submitted. Here to evaluate that GPA calculation, you can cross-reference it with, we have FAFSA one already. To see, okay, here's my list of potentially top eligible students that don't have a FAFSA application on file. Possible outreach. So it's just kind of a way to catch them before you get to graduation, and to broaden the window instead of being from May to July, it's now December to July to try and get them.
Well,
The one thing is, sorry, we don't get that information from STS until February. So for the fall semester, it will come to us in February. That is when the spring load of STS is. To tag on to that, there has to be a PII in the system already. Yes. For that to even be able to go to them. So like you might have somebody that's there, but if they have not signed this PII to allow it to be able to go there, they're not gonna see it ever. Yeah. But, and that's part of what they've tried to educate us counselors, like, hey, we need to have this, and like that PII is actually on there, it's built in the 8th grade. So, and it's a lot of seniors that don't have it, and so like that part of it, just in general, it's enough paper, you try to track this person down, but it's so important. But it's also like something that is another thing that is on our plates, so therefore, like they wouldn't know.
And it's not necessarily just what you can we have to be able to look at multiple things. Do they have enough support?
Yeah, the core curriculum is, yeah, right, but some of it's the transfer thing, so like, a lot of times we'll do scholarship board on mid-year transcripts, like mid-year senior transcripts, and then final transcripts to confirm that all the criteria was being met by the time to get there. But it was just trying to broaden that window of, hey, here's our eligible but non-FAFSA completed list to find him sooner than later, so.
I think we tried, or I had a bright idea in my head to try to, because we really don't have the contact information, because that comes from the FAFSA or the top online application. The ACT record a lot of the time has an email address in there, but we cannot use that to contact.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all purpose, yeah.
I thought I had a light bulb that go on and Robbie was like.
He does have an email, they have an email.
They slightly limit our ability to send.
Right, right.
But if they check that box that allows people to contact them, like check the box or bubble in for the others, that's really odd. Because it allows, if they get a lot of mailings that they didn't know they had.
But also think of it from like high school outreach perspective as well, because you provide a roster of potentially top eligible students without FAFSA to the high school counselors directly. We would say, hey, the state is saying you can influence the top, but they don't pass it for you, you get this done, it's kind of refine your populations for that. Rather than y'all having to do anything and y'all have the right line to the student, so. Thoughts?
Thank you, we like thoughts. Next, slide. All right, so these were our spring processing webinars. So Haley Pellegrin, who is also the outreach coordinator that handles our counselors, she's a liaison for us for that. She facilitated these webinars. She did an excellent job. Christy actually sent a text and was like, oh, Haley, she did a good job. But basically, the spring processing webinars is they're different from our webinars in the fall, where those are just kind of general programmatic and TOPS information. These are specifically designed to inform them, like, this is what you need to have done in STS so that we can get your student records, as Christy referred to, like having consent, making sure there's a grad date, making sure, there's no missing PII, T-Scholar, things of that nature. So we also share some of the common errors that we get that students and parents have, just to kind of help them plan. And so at the beginning of May, we'll be sending out like a checklist to reinforce everything that we went over in the webinars, just so they can have a checklist to make sure all these things are done, particularly if you're not going to be there over the summer, to make sure your students have access to somebody that their information is correct and you can run them through processing. Next. And this was at LSU. Of course, you can see beautiful graphic design work and Shane's work on display. But this was attended by Charnel Tadney, and so she was able to connect with students and parents about TOPS, FAFSA, and the other resources that LOSFA can provide. And this was for East Jefferson High School's College and Career Day. This was actually a pretty large event with over 200 students and parents in attendance, and over 100 of those present did stop by at LOSFA's table, basically to get information on our programs, FAFSA and TOPS. Our student network group for the month was hosted. This is the one for March. Basically went over burnout. Is it real or is it a myth? And this was facilitated by Joy Plain, and they were able to get some very, I know. Well, they got some good feedback from the students, basically on kind of signs to recognize when they may be stressed, and basically like the importance of mental health and how to cope with stress. So they had a really engaging session and got some feedback from the students for that. Next. Okay, and so this is in the upper left corner is Patrick Rodriguez. He is one of the members of Lincoln Ascendium's fellowship, and so we do check in with him every month. And the month that we met with him in March, basically we talked about him coming in and doing like a virtual training with staff. He is a justice impacted individual. He actually was one of the presenters at NCHEP in New Orleans last week. So he is basically kind of in constant contact with us. We meet with him separately, but then we also meet with the fellowship as a whole. And so Patrick has really been a resource, basically, just to kind of check in with us, see how things are going, and really see if there's any support that the fellowship can provide to us. And April and Damien, who are two of our team members who are very much involved with the justice impacted support that we provide for students, attended Capri's monthly meeting. And so Capri is Capital Area Prison Reentry Initiative. And so it's basically multiple organizations in the area that kind of each focus on a different area of support. LOSFA's role is in the realm of college access. And so they meet monthly, they kind of move around in EDR at different libraries. But one of the really interesting things about Capri is that they're about to launch a hub called Capri Hub, which can basically be used as a website to help people who are in the coalition, like guide those justice impacted individuals to where they need to be. So that would be a super useful tool for our comprehensive advising officers to have as well. Next.
Question. In the future, is there any way that any one of the organizations that you work with will be able to capture how well these people that you've assisted with their reentry are doing? We'll be able to know this is working.
I'm sure they probably could. The good thing, I think April touched on this last month, is that even though we're referring them out for services, we're still kind of have our hands on it as well. You remember from the 2.0 spotlight last month, when they highlighted like the 4 justice impacted individuals, they had kind of worked with several other organizations with those individuals, but they still maintain contact with them to kind of make sure they cross the finish line. In the process of crossing the finish line, because some of them have several barriers, challenges.
And I want to say corrections does monitor some of this. They look to make sure that, like, depends on like where they are with probation and parole, but they do capture like employment, housing, things like that, but it's not always the greatest data, it's more the solid.
Thank you.
All right, moving on with outreach. Trudy presented some seminars on WASA's programs and services, as well as different types of financial aid to needs students and counselors as part of the Merit Job Center and Youth Fair. She also emphasized the student hub, which we've seen an uptick in traffic to the student hub side as well. Part of the partnership with People Industries, they did a presentation at Central High School. Daniel Darius presented 2 seminars to students, juniors, and seniors who have IEPs, 504 plans at Central. They highlighted the different financial aid resources that are available, particularly in J. Foster bonds, really trying to emphasize the opportunities that they have to get certifications, not just grades. We're trying to push pathways. Different pathways students can take in order to obtain some type of credential, whether that's long-term or short-term. Next. Oscar Day at the EBR School Systems Career Technical Education System. Over 130 students were there. They learned about different pathways to health careers. They heard from the leadership at Ochsner about the different career pathways that are available to them. And Tanya participated in that. She presented information on TOPS, FAFSA, programs and services that we have available through LOSFA, in particular our comprehensive advising services, really trying to push student participation in our student network groups, as well as our connections to revenue services. Next. Nick and April, part of our partnership team, had a meeting with DCFS, the regional office at Covington, talking about the resources that we have available that can be part of the foster care parent training. They were particularly interested in learning more about LAEAGLE. Anytime we share information about this program, it really piques the interest of whoever it is we're presenting to, because a lot of people don't know about it. And so they really want to try to see if we can develop a resource that can list all of the particular programs and services that would benefit foster care families, and even trying to create a statewide DCFS meeting so we can share these resources and more information about them. Next. During the Foster Scholar Connect Student Network Group, the employer engagement coordinator Tanya presented on professional networking and social media etiquette, making sure that students know how to build professional networks and keeping their online presence as sweet as possible. A lot of students don't understand that once it's there, it's always there. And many a student has lost out on an internship, scholarship, admission to a program, a job, because of things that they have posted on their social media platforms. And so we are going to continue to offer these type of sort of career service trainings and services through our student work groups, and we're actually in the process of developing career services section on our website that will link to professional development, opportunities for training, things they need to know about internships, apprenticeships, how to conduct an interview, what they need to have on their resume, how to maximize the use of LinkedIn, those kinds of things. So that's in the works right now. Next. Oh, we have two mentions. One is, I know what the title was. One is about fewer students in Louisiana seeking aid because of the elimination of the ASPA requirement. Ebony was interviewed for them. I shared earlier that our numbers are actually higher. It's just other states are doing a little bit better than they have in the past. A lot of states use us as the model for how to institute the FAFSA requirement for graduation. So we don't have that. It makes sense that those that do a little better. And then in this article about micro credentials, it highlighted the NJ Foster Performance Program. And you should be able to link to those articles in the packets if you'd like to do so. Thanks. Okay, here's our update for social media. From the 1st of March to almost the end of March, we had over 150,000 views. Our reach has been about 56,000, and our engagement almost 1,000 over the past month, which is pretty good. Next. Our top social media posts that we had, the navigating your options, which we talked about what students, the options students have in order to apply for TOPS. We really try to stress that they can use the FAFSA or the TOPS online application. We also have, which I'll share this later in our spotlight, highlighting our digital media and social media efforts, particularly videos, viral social media video. We try to on top of what the trends are, and so that did very well as well. And then information about development this week's awareness month, where we shared information about health. Next. Here is where we currently stand with our followers. Of course, Facebook leads the pack, and our digital media specialist team is continuously working on how to increase our followers on Instagram in particular. That's one of the best places to reach students on platforms. And X, of course, is mostly policymakers, organizations, lawmakers, etc. But parents and a lot of professionals in college access, Facebook is very able to reach them. Next. For our website, organic traffic really drove a lot of people to our website. That means that they're looking up something on a search engine related to college access, financial aid, those types of things, and they find our website that way. And of course, direct, they type in LOSFA.la.gov. The TOPS has overtaken NJ Foster again as the #1 page on our site. Number 2 is our homepage, and then particular TOPS opportunity followed by the student hub, and then our other scholarships and grants. Top referral was MSN. I've asked, I've inquired, why, how? Don't have an answer, but somehow that has been the top referral that people have gotten to our website. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that would make the most sense, but I don't know.
Maybe one of the articles.
I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Like,
The article or like, sometimes they'll do like location-based articles, here you have location-based content, so if they look at the web browser, a lot of default that's in, and so it might.
Because I saw that and said, Andrew, it's.
when I read that, I was like, wait.
Right.
That's it.
And then Facebook, we're seeing an uptick in our Facebook traffic. So over 70,000 page views, over 30,000 total sessions, and over 20,000 total users. Next. Yes, but during the spotlight, I'll be doing a presentation on our social media efforts, particularly using digital. So. Comments, minutes.
Before I get started, I'd like to introduce Devin Alexander. Devin has been working at SG for almost 3 years. She was previously working on the top side in the initial eligibility section. But a couple of weeks ago, she was promoted to supervisor for special programs, as well as the MJ Foster Promise Specialist. So exclusively MJ Foster Promise will be her program, but she will also supervise the other 10, 11 programs that we have in special programs, some of which I'll talk about in today's program. So thanks, Deb. I have some updated numbers for both of these programs. The GOLD grant, as you know, we don't award in the summer, and we just ran on Monday. A couple of schools had some extenuating circumstances which allowed them to bill because of some certain things going on. So with the GOLD grant, the current balance, the falls, and this is as of today, because they ran on Monday. So our total allocation is still the same, $70.4 million. The fall amount increased to $34,772,780. And the spring amount billed was $34,711,330. So the remaining balance for GOLD grant right now is $996,605. So that's the amount we'll have to reallocate to schools who build and complete everything by the billing deadline of March 24th. So this is the lowest we've had in years. It's always been like over $1 million. So we're at 996. So that's pretty good. For our John R. Justice, March 24th was the last day to bill, but corrections were due by April 11th. That's gonna come out of 996. Okay. So, John R. Justice, as a current public defenders, their award amounts are $10,000. So we have 5 awards to give, and we've dispersed 3. On the prosecutor side, we have 10 awards at $5,000 each, and we dispersed 7. So we're a little bit ahead of that. We've been having some mail issues, and I think this has gone across the country. We had a student that, an attorney that mailed us something certified on April the 6th, and it's been at home since April. Today's the 15th. It's just crazy. Some post offices are closing early because they don't have staff, and mail is just sitting in location. So once we get the mail going, because some documents have to have a wet signature, original documents that we need for the John R. Justice program. So that's moving along fine. We do have until September to make all of those awards. And we're currently recruiting applications for the new year that will start with the federal fiscal year on October 1st. Next slide. MJ Foster, that is the current, most current information from the weekly report. And so as of opening date on June 1st, 16,655 applications. The total 382 are renewal eligible, 10,989 are eligible, and then the 3,100 ineligible, and then cancel or fulfilled awards. Looking at the award amounts, we have over $1 million that we're still working on dispersing. Remaining balance is 1.5 for the year, so we have a system in place where we're awarding based on the dates and continuing applications and so forth. So Devin's working on that.
Question, so the remaining balance of 1.5, are there bills out there that still need to be paid out of that?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, that's not just money for free on.
I think when we see that number for our colleges, we're like, we have $1.5 million we need to go spend because we want to spend it down, right? So we're trying to push, like, hey, we have $1.5 million, but if we don't really have that,
We have students in the pipeline because we're in a funding shortage. So what we've been doing is a month by month, like if we can pay the students who had an enrollment date in March, you pay those people first. Because you cannot promise the students in April that you're going to pay them until you know what you have in March. So we're basically, these are starting dates now. So if you've got students rolling starting in April, we're gonna pay April. Then if we have money left, we're going to pay May for students that are starting there. All of those students who started before that should already be in the pipeline and have been paid.
Process.
I still think that from a call, like for me, trying to tell our colleges how much money is available is difficult because I don't know.
So you're saying
That
that we
makes
should
sense,
say
like-
that out of the 1.7,
Like-
1.5
Look at this,
pending bills
correct. I need to know the
account for.
because that tells me really how much. Because if I have, if you have pending 500,000, I have one.
To the bill.
Million. And, you know, I know that there was a billing deadline in April, but we have classes for non-credit that are gonna start after that billing date and for May. So can I bill for those? Assuming I have,
Month to month as the month, that's why when that funding balance comes out, the way I've seen it, it says pending, and then it subtracts pending and gives you a remaining balance on that report. To show that this is what we've got as your debt to go forward.
so what I pull is this report right here. So it's got a remaining funds available, 1.5. I see. I don't, it says there's a pending, which is $800.
Because what it's pulling is the pending for that week.
Okay,
We can revise the report again, but what it's pulling is as, all was doing before, and now that we're doing, they will process, like, as classes start, they can go to process, so that's what we're pulling, that what's on hold this week, okay, what's in process. So what we need to do is probably put in what's in process, and then those that are standing, sitting there, waiting next year, but they haven't met their time yet.
that's a better way to do it, because I think
We can do that.
we're over here like to spend $1.5 million, and if that's not really what I have to
And
spend.
it is still gonna have to be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because of the point of, if you're starting them, what we don't want you to do is go promise somebody money.
Right.
That, and package them starting in June, and you know, I can't tell you you're gonna have money. But that's in June, so we're happy to do it like this because you have so little money left.
And so just to clarify, I can still bill for moving forward, even though we had a date that might be before.
When we get to that month, that's when we're looking for those, that's when we're gonna entertain those bills. We're not entertaining anybody's bills that they're sending in for June right now, because we don't know if we're getting to June. Which is why it said.
But I can still
This to
bill
this.
though, but it's just not a guarantee for those dollars.
You can bill and we would code it like we did last year. I think we had a code that said funding shortfall. But at that particular point in time, I don't know when that funding shortfall is going to start. Because we're gonna exhaust this to the very last minute, and then you've got refunds gonna come in. So they'll allow you to pull back in, which is why we said we can only process month to month instead of like before, having all of that sitting out there. And then you gotta go back and scramble to say, well, what did you tell that student at the institution level? Show that student they were getting their money, because we can't tell you that. So that's that bit of a shift this year, because we are very, very.
If you do go forward and put that shortfall, then we will also be able to track and eventually tell the legislature the question. How many students do we have extra that could be funded?
Let me legislate.
And yeah, we're going to see that you're very close to
Yeah.
that. It's just that last year we did that, And then the question became, so what did you tell the students and what did you do with the students that you billed for in a pending status and the money never came through? LOSFA did not ever get clear answers from that, from the majority of campuses. We did not be in that position. So it's like, we did not tell you if we're going to pay that. So it's trying to find that balance between what we can tell you is what we have available. And we can say, if you're starting this class this year, you can submit it this month, then we'll tell you, right? That's really the best that we can do at this point, but yes. That's why in the long version of that report, it compares, this is where we were in 23-24. This is where we are here, so that legislators can see. You ran out of money much earlier this year of the 10.5 than any year before. We're basically out for all purposes in fall. Right, so it had that 7.3 not come through, we wouldn't have spread, right? So that in of itself is enough to be able to say, yes, you need more money. I think that the questions that are coming now are, so how are the students doing? And again, that is the agreement with the Workforce Commission that we're trying to get that data to say, specifically, this is where they were when they started, and this is where they were when they finished. Because I do believe that that is what will, as things get even tighter, that is what will justify increases in the program. We'll tweak that, and then Shauna can actually, we'll tweak it,
Okay.
send it to you just in a draft, and then you can tweak it as a word that's still not as clear.
The next program is the Go Youth Challenge program. And we updated information on that one. We had 2 fall recipients and 3 for spring. So that total for the year is $9,548.06. So that program, they were awarded $50,000 for this current year to be spent down. So it may last 5 or 6 more semesters. It just depends. We work with the centers in Carville, Pineville, and Mendon to work with the counselors there so they can identify students who are finishing the Youth Challenge program, the national board portion, and then entering post-secondary. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Okay, top something. Tomorrow we will be before, House. It's like, who is it? All right, the majority of the TOPS bills are scheduled for House Ed tomorrow. We've been asked to do a, good luck with this, 10-minute presentation. Got it. On the trends and overviews and tops before that starts. And we will be doing that. As soon as those pages are finalized and, we go through those because, we think we have them correct and then we get new questions. So what we're trying to do is to respond to legislators' questions by making sure we answer them on the mic, and then we go back in trend reports that you're also going to get a copy of, and update the trend report if there's anything major that they're asking that they haven't been asking before. The 2 major things that they're asking that they haven't been asking before is, why are students ineligible for TOPS? Because the numbers are jarring. When you look at the percent of students that make the cut to be eligible, it is 43.8%, something like that. So now just marinate on that a little bit. Out of the graduate process, 43.8% made the cut to be eligible for TOPS. Oh, 46.3, okay, it's a great day. 46.3, that still means that you basically got, 54 that are not. So you have more students out of the graduate process that are not eligible for the award than those that are. That is alarming, right? Which is leading them to ask, well, why is that? So that data will be presented to them tomorrow as to whether it is ACT,
whether it is GPA, whether it is core, or whether it's a combination of those. So once we present that, we're also gonna incorporate that into the TOPS trends. The other question that is coming up, and it's generally a question that is addressed in top 1202 in that annual report by the Board of Regents, is okay, we're spending all this money. How are the students doing? So we are going to add that data from 1202, but then there's a new twist, which is, so how are they doing by award level? Right, and 1202 does not deal with individuals on retention by award level. So we're having to go and rerun that data by award level to say, here's retention by award level. And we will add that back into the TOPS trends. So where we are now, question now is, why do we have more money left over? We're, as you can see, about 0.6 below where we were this time last year. This means that we will have enough money to be able to fund summer. What we are watching is the new transfer pathways that have been approved by the Board of Regents. Once we get more information on those transfer pathways for TOPS Tech, technically, that is approved for this particular academic year. Now, you have to go back and say, if you're enrolled in that, you're now eligible for that. If you want to enroll in that in the summer and you're not eligible for that, that could impact all of these numbers. We also have an issue with TOPS Tech students that are eligible, are enrolled, and we were not billed for them. Now, we're trying to root out, is that the whole, I'm enrolling them in general studies as opposed to enrolling them in a program eligible for TOPS, and then I'm saying, oh, but that's not. We've done some specialty codes for institutions because we saw at first that the trend was healthcare. You're enrolling them here and then you're moving them. We're like, okay, you should be billing for the students. We're trying to get to the bottom of that to determine, is that a new code? Is that just, what's going on here? So we will bill for those students, which will again change these numbers. Whether it will change it drastically really remains to be seen. Next year in this budget going forward that is going to be debated in this current session, the Board of Regents has recommended a decrease in the funding for TOPS. And so know that you're pulling that back, but if you pull that back and then the transfer pathways go forward and take off, then you could be in a situation of asking for more money for TOPS. But so it is always just let's look at what comes out of this legislative session, in addition to the things that I've already talked to you about. We will get copies of the, a link to the TOPS trend report is what we're calling it, as well as whatever one pager we provide to them. That one pager is based upon the specific questions we were asked to address in 10 minutes, which we'll make it if none of them ask a question. Good luck with that, and we've said that, right? So that is kind of where we are and what will be happening tomorrow.
No, excuse me, roughly, what was it, 54% are no longer eligible for TOPS? You said,
You mean that you did not ever make the eligibility
Yeah.
criteria for TOPS?
right, what? Is that, I assuming that that's going up? I mean, fewer are becoming eligible,
Yes. Yes.
and that's what we're trying to get at is why are fewer becoming eligible?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's from 54.5% in 14-15. With OPH on, all right, but then it's down to 46.3% in 24. On your TOPS Tech side, it was 14.4% in 2014-15, and it is 20.8 in 23-24. So we are pointing out to them, it's like, but I thought you just said it was going down. Well, think about it. If I'm not eligible for TOPS opportunity, I am more than likely eligible for TOPS Tech. So as TOPS opportunity rates go down, the tech rates will go up. But the inverse is true of the acceptance rates, right? So more of your OPH students are accepting the awards than the tech awards. So that's the trends that you're seeing.
So your question, I think sometimes we're on the same wavelength here. What she's saying is that it's the ones that have been processed. So what's happening is that they were completing the FAFSA. Let's say they had a 14 on the ACT and they had a 3.0. Well, then they're not eligible, but they processed them because they completed the application or they completed the FAFSA. So then, like she said, if they're not OPH, let's say they're in 19, then they'd be eligible over here for the TOPS 10. But yet they're going to a 4-year university and they're just paying out of whatever, and they're not accessing this money over here. That's what she's saying.
That is also in the report.
I'm just thinking of me as the uneducated legislator. And or think of the headline that's going to hit the newspaper as, well, you know, eligibility, TOPS eligibility is decreasing, or however they'll do it, because, you know, the average person, well, not even the average person, a lot of people have said to me, well, I understand, you know, TOPS acceptance rate, TOPS is going down. But it's a lot more complicated.
It is.
That's what I.
And the handouts that we have for them and the TOPS trend report will take you through that to go, if you can't say that it is one reason
Yes.
why TOPS students are not using the money the way they could, because if you have a smaller group of process students that arrived at the gate, and then you have a smaller group of students that met the criteria to get the award in the first place, and then you have a smaller amount of students that accepted the award in the first place, then yes, it's gonna go down. Those can be attributed to very different things, so not each one of those factors come from the same reason. If only 46.3% and 20.8% meet the criteria, that isn't a function of TOPS, that's a function of 13 years in an education system preparedness, period, right? And then if you start to talk about, okay, well then why are they not accepting the award? Well, then we have a breakdown in the trend report that says, okay, you need to look at where they're going, right? It's not a gargantuan percentage that are going out of state, that's around 8% in global, right? But then you break it down by award types to see, are they going out of state? Are they staying in the state, but they are enrolled part-time? Or they're enrolled past the 1-year deadline? Do you just not see them at all? And the not see them at all is a higher amount in the TOPS 10, because we suspect, without the data to back that up, because we don't get workforce data, that those students left and went to work to be able to help support a family, help support themselves. You have some anecdotal data when you cross-reference that to MJ Foster, and you look and see that your 19-year-olds, your 20-year-olds, those are your 20-year-olds are not your biggest population in MJ Foster. It's when you get into that 22 that you see them, so that kind of tracks with if you left school and went to work or whatever it is you left to do.
Yep.
You didn't, and then you figured out, hey, you know, I think this is going nowhere, or I'm the first to be laid off, or I'm not getting promoted and other people are, then that would make sense that now you've got MJ Foster and you would see a surge in that group of young adults taking advantage of it as a higher rate, and higher is relative, but all of that's outlined in that report. Then you've got the individuals that are going out of state that are your very well prepared students, or your students that weren't gonna take it at all anyway. So what wasn't gonna accept the award, and Pell is transferable across state lines, right? Same thing. Or if you have a business model in higher ed that is saying if an out-of-state student brings in more money for our institution than an in-state student. So you have other states coaching our students, and then we are coaching their students, which means that, okay, if they're giving our students a higher level of award to get them there, then yes, then the amount of your award and the buying power of it comes into play. So we like to say it's an onion, because no one layer is going to explain what is happening.
The workforce area, has there ever been an effort to try and bridge that gap to enable? I mean, I'm not on the vertical side, but in terms of the data sharing, I know this legislation, all this stuff's gotta go to the laws. Okay.
I mean, there has been an effort, but the problem is that data we get from STS and FAFSA and from ACT is all confidential, and that comes to us. And from that point, we are not allowed to share out a whole lot of that information. We share it with regents, but they are our parent organization, right? We're all part of one organization, and we can't share that out to LWC unless there's specific legislation which says that. Another limitation on that is the fact that LWC is required to charge for that data.
How to charge for what?
That data. Yes.
Well, and if they go out of state, then LWC has to have agreements.
Yes.
To get the data from out of state, and if they're charged for it, then that's more cost to get it, so
Well,
there's
even-
lots of barriers.
That's not the state data, but yeah, like,
Yeah.
the state data, that's kind of sort of. You know,
You also not realize that you're just a combination of yes.
right.
That's unbelievable.
Efforts continue to be.
Oh, yeah, I see their hand, but I'm ignorant, that's.
Oh, no.
For clarification, yeah, just because I need a refresher on this. I know that they have 1 year to claim their tops. When technically is the last time that they can file their FAFSA? Because if we have somebody right now that's adamant, I am not filing FAFSA, I'm not going to college, I know I'm not going to college, and we know this, they may not, but if they change their mind 6 months from now, is that too late? When is that time frame? There? So, May 2025 graduate has until July 1 of 2026. So it's the July 1 following the 1 year anniversary. And fall of 26 is when they would have to go to school. So it's that July 1 right before that. Now, they can file it up through October 29th.
October 29th.
But they're gonna have a 2-semester penalty. So 60 days after July 1, it'll be a 1-semester penalty, and then from 61 days to 120, it is a 2-semester penalty, which they just will not get that. Will pay when they first start, but that last semester goes off, so they get paid for either 6 or 7 semesters, or 1, 2.
Well, July 1st following one, like prior to the 1 year anniversary is the last, without the last.
It sounds like we need to do a chart.
Yeah,
That
we have a chart in our
But I'm just, what I'm saying, that is available for them on there to get and available.
I haven't been asked that question yet.
Yes.
But I just feel like it's gonna happen whenever, it's not a mandate anymore, so let's, just planning ahead in my mind, because I just see that there are so many things that's gonna happen. They are going to call me, they're gonna show up. And I don't necessarily know the.
Okay, and the ones that are self-access is what we need to do with respect to, because then there's a whole debate about the decision tree as to whether you have to file the FAFSA or not at all, and that you cannot tell people what they have to do, right? So maybe where we have that, we can say, oh, here's when you need to make a decision about what you're going to do and place it somewhere near that, but we can talk about that.
Another question that I've gotten asked recently, and I don't really know if this goes with this, but it's the whole dual enrollment in high school and then withdrawing and then not having forward progress. Is that playing a factor into this conversation? I know it's mostly for Pell, but is that affecting some of these students?
It's both. It's for Pell, if that summer is a header for coming in, we've seen that. Where a student would take their dual enrollment grades and they didn't do well in dual enrollment, and by the time they got to the post-secondary institution, they weren't able to get Pell for the first semester because they hadn't met SAT. Then if you're talking about for tops, it's like, it's feast or famine, I like to say. If you did really well in dual enrollment, and that first semester, you're kind of like on the bubble, as many freshmen are, then you did great. The dual enrollment is gonna help you survive and not be suspended. If you did not do great, you will be suspended right after you get there. So that discussion, well, it comes into expansion for dual enrollment and dual enrollment expanding as to whether there should be academic criteria for students to be able to get dual enrollment.
Well, there are, and then it's for a council recommendation, which we don't
It is
teach
the
them.
or a counselor recommendation.
What we do is we say, we're not recommending you, what's your teacher's name, and I'll.
That's exactly what I do personally, because I don't teach them.
So that's an entirely,
Yes.
that's an entirely different angle, which that's a policy question that says it's great if it's increasing. That's wonderful. But where's the data that show how well they're doing? Because whether you want to show it or not, it's going to all come out in the wash. For tops or for Pell and go when that should, because again, if you can't get your Pell, then you can't get your go. And these are heartbreaking scenarios that LOSFA sees, but by the time you see that, that's on the back end, so that's not in the high school. You're seeing that when they get to post-secondary.
Well, there's even more in requirement. What I thought was interesting, because my daughter fell into this one. She took dual enrollment her senior year. She got an A at Liberty, but a C at LSU. So we're thinking all along, oh, she's doing fine, she's got an A, not gonna mess it up. She got to Southeastern and was almost on probation before she ever started classes, because actually she was, I think she had a C and a D for the second semester part of it. And it's like, whoa, wait, how'd you get an A at Liberty for the same class?
Very common.
Yeah.
How many parent phone calls do you get when that occurs?
Well, it hasn't really started, it's starting to happen, because it wasn't me, I just got a phone call from a teacher. It wasn't even, it was another counselor, it was a teacher calling me, and then I reached out, was it you or? It was me, okay, cause I was like, let me call and get this information from like the source. And I was, but like, as I started thinking more and Robin explained it to me, I was like, wait a second, like I could see some of this potentially rolling out, but I did not see the magnitude of that. And like, as a counselor trying to just inform you to make a decision, there hasn't been enough of those problems yet for it to really be obvious, because you're speaking of that, like, I mean, I had kind of seen that happen before to people and I'd heard about it, but like we go to counselor meetings or like LGOE and somebody would say something, but it wasn't in our faces until it affects somebody that you personally know, you won't see it. So that's, it's gonna be a bigger issue eventually.
And I don't know that we get many phone calls about it. I go back because it was my kid.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, child, because then she wants to take 21 hours her first semester at Southeastern. What are you thinking? I mean, she 4.0'd it, so fine. Brought it up out of probation, but I'm like, this is not cool. How do we start like this?
We get them when they don't get the award.
Well,
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay,
Because of it.
Then we get the call that's referred through the lawmaker or through somebody in higher ed to say what's going on. And we're like, remember that thing I told you about? I think that's it.
Yeah.
That this is it.
changes are happening to give them more opportunities, which is great, but see, more students are taking advantage of it, but yet they may not be prepared for that, even the workforce. I mean, like, we're trying to get them certified in credentials, so like, we're trying to start earlier, but sometimes those students aren't ready yet, and they don't know that they're not ready yet, but you can't judge if they're ready or not until they do, so you're kind of stuck in a catch-22 with it. And so that's where it's trying to iron out, but it's like the conversations haven't been able to take place because it hasn't been a problem big enough yet.
And from a phone, just kind of email, incoming communication, kind of what we're giving students. We've had those students who have those dual enrollment classes, and one of the things that we really talk about where those presentations is talking about retention. And these grades are going to help them because a lot of the questions are, is it going to stop you from being eligible? It's like, no, because your high school gives you one grade, post-secondary institution gives you another. But once we start looking at retention, once you're in college, you could not done well, that could potentially kind of make a break. And the other thing is that they're like, well, I took this dual enrollment course and I got these hours, and it's like, it's a different academic year, so it's not gonna count towards your 24. So that's kind of what we were answering when hired in. I think we had probably a student that we had an exception for that, like, came, she had so many dual enrollment courses that I can't remember, it's like an exception or a female, but she was like almost a junior. And she was a really high performing student, but to have a high, like a high school senior, go to college and you're a senior, I mean, junior, she could not. It was just, she was on upper level courses, and it's like a very difficult workload for brother, I think, you know, this has just been hard for her. That's another. Yeah, so it's, yes.
We did have a student who was, I was talking to Robin about this, but it was way back in the day. Kind of like that, she was a high performing student and she went to college as, like, in her second year, classified as a sophomore junior in college. And she was like a top performance or tops honor award recipient. And how language bombed that year. Just the transition. Yeah, and how language changed, but we used to have on the opportunity award for your first year was a 2.30 and your second year was 2.50. And that's when we changed it to 24 and 48 hours. I remember this conversation sent in under executive director's office because, like, she was no longer eligible for a stipend and stuff, but she still had above the 2.30. But it was a big deal, but I do remember that. But yeah, like Evan was saying, we do have those high performing students that just don't adjust to college well.
Legislative update.
Something you're favorite time of year.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Page one of your update is the House bills. We have HB 75 Representative Brass. This bill adds a criterion. And either or, if you will, by which a student can become eligible for TOPS 10. So right now, they have to have the core, a minimum GPA on the core, and a qualifying ACT. What this bill does is add successful completion of 9 hours of early college credit. So they can have the core and GPA or those 9 college credit. They can have ACT or the 9 college credit or any combination of those 3 things. This is going to be effective for next year. Is that right? Yes. Enrolling as first-time freshmen, so it's for 25 graduates. That bill is going to be heard tomorrow. Well, the student, the students are fixed to graduate. Yes, yes. Again, early college credit, did they distinguish what they mean by early college credit in welding, or is it gotta be English and math? Like, AP, OSA,
PE, no, it's, Board of Regents measures early college credit as DE, AP, IB, but it also is, there's another portion of it, it's something with the credential.
yeah, so if a student is taking the TOPS 10 course, they're in that pathway and they get those 9. Well, let's just say they go with North Shore and they go take automotive there, it's dual enrollment, are they counting that too, or is it just the? If it's those 9 in the Jumpstart credentials for that region, it should be.
Yes, but they did not.
I just want some clarification, because I'm gonna be asked about it. It should be, because if it didn't, I find it odd that they would choose 9.
Well, because it actually says successful completion of either at least 9 credit hours, early college credit, which may be attained through academic or technical enrollment courses or equivalent validated skills and learning assessments as approved by the statewide articulated and transfer council. Which right now, we don't actually get this data. So we have no way to figure out how this will affect TOPS or how many students might be eligible, because we don't get I mean, we get that, you passed the core. You took the core. I don't know how many of that core is early credit, early college credit. I don't know how many of them are these validated skills and learning measures. So
So that person is tagging on to the school score because with the new school score, you have 6 credit hours of dual enrollment. So then they're saying 9, so it's taking it a little bit further. I can kind of make the connection of here's this, and trying to see where they're coming together. I kind of get that a little bit. But I did not know what the early college credit, I had never seen that defined as technical and the other. HB 17. I'm gonna miss this. This bill,
The purpose of
adds the
70
age
is to increase,
support.
is the purpose of 70 to increase enrollment in Topps Tech?
You think so? We think so.
I think so.
We think
Well,
so.
okay.
I don't think
But
the
enrollment
statistic
and
was
eligibility
mentioned.
are two different
Exactly.
things.
We're thinking.
I don't know that the statistic was mentioned earlier. But what is it, 77%? Don't accept everything.
right, 70,
Yeah.
basically 7, I think it's 77.3, don't accept the report. And of that 77.3, 1% of Topps Tech eligible students go to college in Louisiana and pay on their own. Not
In an academic program.
In an academic program, they're going into, we have 5.4 that go part-time, 3% that go after the 1-year deadline, so we're never gonna get it. But 44.1% of the students actually go to either a 4-year or a 2-year in a non-Topps Tech eligible program. They have only those few academic programs. So if they go into another academic program at BRCC or River Parish or something that's not one of those specific academics, their Topps Tech's not allowed to be paid.
But also in order to do Topps Tech early start, it's like 15 or 14 or 15 on the ACT. And if you actually saw these ACT scores of the top of the jumpstart students because of the courses that they're taking, it is written to try to help, because if they are able to take the other, but they didn't make the 17 or the silver, like, I think that's, as I'm reading this, it would make sense that that's what they're trying to do, is just increase it by giving them another option. Based on what I'm reading here. Yes, ma'am, they are trying.
But let's just be real, the early college students in community college are not matriculating to our institutions, they are going somewhere else. Meaning they're not able to use their Topps Tech at those institutions. So, like, I think that's the challenge with this bill, is that, great, I would love to have more people eligible for Topps Tech, but that's not my problem. My problem is that I have very poor matriculation rate from dual enrollment to our institutions. And then even from there, I have a very poor acceptance rate on Topps Tech. So people coming to.
That's because of the limited.
Correct.
Yes,
That's the issue. That's the
It's a limited program, so.
Yes.
Yes.
There are certain academic programs.
We
that are-
continue to say
Which is
that.
based on the, how wage, how demand, is that how they determine? Well,
Part of it, yeah. There's a council that meets.
That's
it is
another.
proposed.
yeah, that's another bill.
It's proposed, essentially, there is a council that meets, it's by the board of regents, colleges can essentially, so for like LCTCF, I may have a college that says, I would like to have the AS of health studies eligible for Topps Tech. Well, we would present that to that council, and that council would say, well, provide me with like your estimated enrollment, what are the wages that someone could make, what is the end degree? And that council says, yes. So then it goes from the board of regents to the workforce commission approves that, and then it feeds back into LOSFA. So there's, traditionally, it's supposed to be high wage, high demand. There are academic programs that have been approved historically that I would argue do not meet that criteria.
So if that particular program is approved at one location, is it able to?
For LCTCS, if it's approved at one of our colleges, all our institutions.
But not all the rest.
It wasn't that way before.
No, ma'am, it wasn't, and I actually looked up and it was like, I read this line on one of the websites, because I was going to look for something, I was like, wait a second, that's a change.
Yeah,
Well, there are
that's
changes.
from like the bottom,
not all of them have the same number.
Correct, so.
Yeah, about 3 years.
that we kept saying.
Yeah.
There was Delgado and somebody else both had nursing and it was on the list for one and it wasn't on the list for
Yeah,
others.
it's been
It's like,
class.
it's the same program.
But they still have that problem with some of the others, like 4 years. One might have nursing and a 4 year that has nursing as well does not have. So it's kind of hit or miss. If you really want to go to this school, even if they have a program here that is 4 year in what you need. So if you are dead set on 1 year,
And the most recent approvals had the universal pathway, which might be the thing. Tech world, that we have, those who might be.
But wait until
we still don't have.
what, you're not to 161 yet. So.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Moving along, HB 77.
I know about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So House Bill 77 by Representative Turner and Representative Schnabel is a co-author. This bill adds the Excellence Award. In the bill, the Excellence Award is $12,000 for students with an ACT of 31. It changes the award amounts to a flat rate, and I believe it's the numbers.
It's like 55.
6,065.
That's
it's
just.
going to change on the school.
So,
There's women.
yes, now, for students who enter college. This upcoming class for 25-26, and all of those who have been in school. They will get what we're gonna call the revised award amount, which is either tuition and fees or the flat amount. Whichever is
That's
lower.
wait.
Then you compare that number to the current award amount for jobs. And you get the higher of those two. So let's just say that there's an opportunity award student who is going to LSU and that amounts what, 74, 85. So tuition and fees is 11,000. The flat award amount is 6,000. So the lower of that is 6,000. Current award amount is 74.85. Student will get the 74.80. That will continue for freshmen in 25-26. And all those coming before until they finish. So until they have used all of their eligibility or been canceled, suspended for 2 months, whatever. For incoming freshmen in 26-27, it is either the higher of the flat award amount, lower of the flat award amount or tuition and fees.
Which means it's generally.
Yes.
So I have TOPS tech in there, but it's like.
35.
35.
And it, you still do the same
So
comparison.
same thing, so if we're at 32.14 today, we're gonna get 32.14. Or at least a few months is always, right? Is it fine now?
Well,
No, it's whatever. My tuition and fees are always 32.14 because we have to find things.
No. Your top score amount was 32. Your tuition and fees are actually almost 4,000.
That's correct, because of the tuition and fees part, both adds together.
But then there's an amendment that just got put into that problem.
yes, I know. So there is an amendment. I saw that it decreases the excellence award to 11,300 with a stipend of $350 per semester. 700. Is that for?
Only for LSU Baton Rouge and LSU Health Science Center in New Orleans.
Yes. And that's just because they're the highest amount.
That is the way it is written.
Yes. And I think that's basically, yes, I think that's what the amendment does.
That is basically.
Exactly. Any questions on HB 77?
I'm sure you'll have many tomorrow.
Yes, that one is also up tomorrow.
Yes.
House Bill 161 by Representative Hughes. This one aligns the approval method and approved degree programs for Tots Tech Early Start and Tots Tech to those for MJ Foster. Which means the approved programs for Tots Tech Early Start and Tots Tech will be further limited to those 5 industry sectors that are approved for MJ Foster programs. This is effective for 26-27 academic.
So you're increasing the options to get to maybe be eligible, but now you're decreasing the programs that you might want to go into.
Yes.
So your pipeline's getting smaller there, and we already know a lot don't go because they don't like those.
Those 5 programs like manufacturing, construction,
Healthcare,
transportation,
IT,
and IT.
manufacturers,
Warehouse. So it's similar to the Jumpstart pathways, like those.
That was purposeful. But those, but like for MJ Foster, those could change.
Which means that they change for Tots Tech.
This is just me, but I think that what the intent there is to try to get Tots Tech to apply to non-credit. Or credit.
If it's approved.
Well,
There are certain short-term certificate and credential programs.
can we get this back? Because I want to ask that question specifically.
It's in the statute, that there are certain, and we presented that there are certain short-term certificate credential programs that the administrative agency, which is not us, can approve.
So there's none that we know of.
Through MJ Foster.
No,
Or Tots.
but it's in the statute that they can be approved.
Well, I always ask that question.
But it has not been, but it's in the statute that they can.
Yes, so. Board of Regents would have to approve this. Or Tots.
Board of Regents would have to approve it and send it to LWC for approval. They have to,
But this now is also supposed, the intent is it is supposed to streamline the approval process and align the approval process to make it the same for Tots Tech Early Start, and MJ Foster. Again, the challenge is if your Tots Tech eligible students are at the higher rate going into programs that are not Tots Tech approved, and you limit their options further, like if you're an education major, that is not in one of the 5 sectors. If that's what you want to do, that's not in these 5 sectors. So that means that there would be, to your point, any programs that have been approved before that we are not seeing would continue to be approved.
House Bill 275, by Representative Corral. I think this bill, it would allow a top student who goes out of state for for any part of their undergraduate, would be able to come back to the state, use that remainder of their top support to attend medical or dental school in the state. However, they have to sign a contract and they would have to pay it back by either cash or by working in the state for 3 full years. So, if a student goes out of state for 4 full years, 8 semesters, they would be able to come back and get their top support for those 8 semesters. But it comes with an obligation to work in the state for 3 years. The bill does exempt the time that they are in medical school and residency from the repayment obligation or the work obligation. Does not have in there anything about fellowship or super fellowship. So if this bill passes, that would be additional exceptions that would have to come to you in the event individuals are in fellowship or super fellowship, because we are not going to ask folks to pay back a loan when we know that they have fully finished their education. So, but that would be interest that would accrue during
And it starts at first, we thought it was set to start with individuals going forward.
Yes.
And now it starts now, so if you're currently enrolled in medical school now, but you fit this criteria, then whatever remaining semesters you have would be paid under this award.
Oh, we can go back and pay current year as well.
No, I
So
get it,
if
but
you
it's
do-
not like, you know, go back and if you're a senior. And if you're in your fourth year of medical school, you're not going back and pay for the first 3, it's not.
No, but if you're getting ready to go into a sophomore year next year, and you decide, oh, I'll sign a promissory note, I'll just pay for this current year, then we will have to go back and pay for this year.
And then.
And then if you sign a promissory note for next year, then we'll pay next year, and so on and so forth.
Those annualized promissory notes. Each year.
Yes, it have to be that, just like loans.
Well, with loans, you can do a master promissory note. And just add disbursements, but that needs to, it's better to do.
Oh,
Any more questions about that?
The interesting thing is that if you go out of state, part of it, then you're penalized for others. If you go out of state all 4 years, you're not penalized at all. You go back and take all 8 of your years in med school. And that was to it, I thought.
So HB 327 is not really a top skill, but it could affect the funding. Because what a bill passed last year that required all public high schools to grade on 10, meaning 91 to 100 is an A, 81 to 90 is a B, etc. This bill would require all charter schools as well as all non-public schools to also grade on that scale for the purposes of entering into STS for tops. So we don't know which non-public schools use that grading scale or don't use that grading scale. We know some do 94 to 100 as an A. Some actually do 96 to 100 as an A. And when they report that, student at a public school has a 93, that's an A. Student at a private school, that's a B. So that could tip the scale over to performance or honors for assuming 77 passes excellence. But we just don't know. Because we don't have that information, there's no way for us to get to know. HB 327 by Representative Chasson. That's the one I just did, I apologize. House Bill 372 by Representative. You may recall last year before last, they implemented a requirement that computer science be a course for all students in the top tech and the top PH course. They are pushing that requirement back to 2031 as opposed to 2022. Then we have HB 378 by Representative Wilder. That brings the ACT requirement for home study students down to what it is for students in the school. That one is not on the list to be heard tomorrow. It was, but it is not the one. Then we have 2 MJ Foster bills, HB 395 by Representative Brass removes the income limitation from MJ Foster as well as the requirement that the applicant be unemployed or underemployed for at least 6 months prior to award. That one will be effective for the second. It is not scheduled, but yeah, it also adds a requirement that, so they have to include degrees that are needed for economic development. So that would basically require a more frequent review of the courses for the industry sectors that are much more frequent because those projects.
If that is 161.
Yes.
that will impact those sectors in 161.
Yes. House Bill 558, Representative Davis. This bill is interesting. Last year, Representative Davis wanted to eliminate the prohibition on a student being eligible for MJ Foster if they had a conviction for it. This bill limits the violent crimes. So basically, it says a student shall not have been convicted for a violent crime under this, except for these. Meaning you can be convicted of these, and the ones that were chosen are surprising. I believe
Aggravated battery, second degree battery, disarming of a police officer, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, under armed dangerous weapon, aggravated arson, aggravated criminal damage to property, intimidation, second degree robbery, civil robbery, first statute, aggravated flight from the officer. Those are no longer considered exempted
excluded.
prohibitions to be able to get it.
Yeah.
So those
So
were.
that bill should be. We do have a bill for Go Teach, which we are very thankful for. It makes Go Teach a first restricted dollar rather than a last dollar for tuition fees, textbooks, and needed supplies. So this would allow it to be paid first, and hopefully more students would be able to take advantage of it, because as it stands now, it's last dollar on tuition after institutional aid. It's just they just don't have any of those else left to pay. So those students don't.
So this is Representative Thompson's really good bill.
Yes.
50 years in the legislature.
Yes.
So that's great.
So, Senate Bill 12 was withdrawn from the files of the Senate, which I was surprised by. But then this morning, I'm looking on the legislature's website, trying to see, what the status of all these bills are. He has refiled it as Senate Bill 118. It's the same bill, pretty much. I have not had the opportunity yet to look at both of them side by side to see what is different, but it is essentially the same bill. It gives the $2,400, $4,800 deduction for deposits to able accounts. There has to be something that was wrong with the language, the placement in the law. I just don't know what at this point. And then there is Senate Bill 13 by Senator Boyle, which increases the tax deductions for Start K-12 to $2,400 and $4,800 as opposed to the 12 and $2,400. And basically with both of these bills, it looks like he's trying to align the tax credits with what the Start is. So that is legislation. Now, they still can file bills through when expired, so. Yeah.
Yeah, both of them have already been filed.
Yeah, so this session, because it's a session, they can only file 5 that are not fiscal. So I think they've got another week and a half to file. If they have any non-fiscal bills left. So if they haven't filed.
And also, sometimes happen, not filing new bills, but putting a substitute bill.
Yes.
And it does be on that committee. Or where they would just take out, oh, we're gonna delete the entire text of the bill and substitute bill, which is completely different. That's happened to us, hopefully it won't this year, but it has happened.
Yes, that happened with the privacy budget in 2014. Yes.
So if they run out of their 5 and they're past the deadline, they still have options to make changes.
Yes, if it's being heard tomorrow, like how long does it take until it'll go? How
Well, this is just step one. Okay, so it'll go, yeah, June.
June is
It's
over.
it's over, right.
It's over.
Like our next meeting, like by the next meeting, we'll know what is.
Yeah,
No, we don't.
yeah, so we will know by June. And I can,
We'll
get
know
around
as
the
whether or not
business
it
jobs
has to
with
agree
dates.
with the sign.
Right.
We won't necessarily know if the governor signs it.
Correct.
But you'll know what's gone through
Yes,
the
sir.
process of your signature.
Yeah.
You'll know that at the June.
And if y'all would like updates, please let Roger know, and we can send it to y'all every couple of weeks.
As they make it through, so
Yeah.
you'll see what made it through and what.
Just kind of a status and what committees have heard, where they are. We can do that. Because we don't have a meeting again until after the session.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you.
And with you.
I know you're gonna be there too.
I'll be there. I'm getting text message. here.
All right, our spotlight today is on our social media group. Who has been doing an excellent job and we wanted to be able to highlight their work. So that you can see what great progress we're making on that front in reaching out to the audiences that we serve.
Okay, so Ebony was at an event recently, and somebody praised the content that we've been putting out there. So I really thought it would be great to sort of go over and share a lot of things we've been working on. So over the past year, we've really focused on how do we enhance our presence online? How can we better connect with students? How can we be responsive? What can we do in order to better share information about our resources and our programs? And so we brought on 2 new team members to work with our graphics team and our public relations specialists so that we can really engage through video content and tell our story a little bit better. So we'll go through what we've been working on, show you some examples of some of the things that they have produced, and talk about what we're going to do going forward. Next slide. So before, a lot of our content was mostly static, photos, images, graphics, those types of things. And we had at the time an outside videographer, which is someone that we contracted with. And so we weren't able to be as responsive to the content as we wanted to. We couldn't make things right there on the spot. We were in a queue. We had to wait for his availability to come film and then create it. And that just wasn't working for what we needed to do in order to get the information out that we needed to. And we weren't able to capitalize on the trends that we were seeing, those viral trends on social media. And so we need to be more responsive. We need to be able to put out a lot of video content with a very quick turnaround, and need to be more engaging with how we present our information. Now, sometimes you can put too much on a graphic, or it can easily get lost, or they can't remember what it was that you said. We need it to be more eye-catching and sort of get the main points of what it is across. And then we felt it was very important that we have media professionals on staff whose primary job was to want on the trends and to create this content and to develop a strategic plan. How we're going to develop it, what we're going to do our platforms of sharing, and those types of things. Next slide. Okay, so our 2 digital media specialists that we have Destiny Morris and Lisa Destiny has her bachelor's in mass communications from Southern. She came to us after working with Eagle of her credit union. She was the campus brand manager for HBO Max. She worked at the East Baton Rouge Council on Aging. So anything that you saw from Eagle Federal Credit Union for the years that she was there, that was Destiny. So we were very impressed with the style that she was doing, how she was able to convey information very succinctly. And then we were able to get him as well. As his bachelor's degree from Northwestern, his master's in advertising from SMU. Has a filmmaking background. He's won some awards at film festivals for some movies he's done. And then he worked at Ellen DeBozier as well as all content that was necessary there. He was over as well as being the lead media editor for an advertising agency based out of West Kentucky. So we have two really great team members that we're going to add to work with our existing communications team. So I'll turn it over to y'all to discuss why we emphasize videos.
Thanks, Shane. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Destiny Norman, and today we're going to talk about our video content. So in the era of digital media, videos, they grab attention and build the connection with our audience. So explanatory video content is important because it tells a story. Hammond and I think we're both very great, powerful storytellers, and with the video content, it's fostering those deeper connections with the audience. Also, it boosts conversions with our content and like our website. So one software that we're going to talk about later is Sprout Social. On some of our posts, if you visit the bio, it links directly to whatever page that we were referring to on that post. And then we can measure this and the website traffic against advertising efforts on social media and form a direct correlation between posting on social media and going to the website. Video content is also mobile friendly. So in this age, we see everyone with their phone, and on their phone, we can get there by posting the videos, and it's consumable and it helps drive traffic to our social media pages and our website pages.
And in addition to that, not only is mobile friendly the way in the future and the way we are right now, but posting videos on social media through mobile platforms also improves our algorithm. We're able to learn in real time what our consumers want and how to better modify anything for future content. And that kind of brings me to my next point, that it is what the audience wants. We're able to look at current trends and viral videos. We're able to, take music from these to enhance our presence online. And that'll lead to higher engagement rates, better retention and learning. These videos are going to perform better than a static post will because they will be more engaging. The movement on the screen is what keeps you engaged and informed at the same time. So we'll be doing this, and we already have that, through a number of different tools and platforms. We recently invested in a handful of different equipment for this, some great HD cameras. We have some new microphones with the clip-on lavaliers and mics that y'all see on film sets, some new lighting equipment, and we actually just got a really great new green screen that's a pop-up, so that means no wrinkles in the background, very smooth and effortless green screen technology that we'll be using. Yes, and a teleprompter, thanks. For the software, both Destiny and I use Adobe Premiere and all those outlets through the Adobe suite, which are listed up there. We also have Canva Premium for different stock images and footage, different graphics and animations that we can tap into and save within our brand kit. And we also use Motion Array and Artist for different music and sound effects and other post-production enhancements. And through this, we're able to put our content out, as Shane had mentioned earlier, on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook's really our primary audience source, and we'll dive into that a little bit later. And we're also modifying our YouTube as well. Now that YouTube Shorts are making a comeback, that's kind of a built-in new audience for us that will be engaging across these other platforms as well.
Okay, so let's talk strategies. We will get more into it once we look at our analytics, but we actually sat down with our public relations specialists and we developed a strategy and a plan. So content development. With creating content, we start with the topic, and from that topic, we decide if we're going to do long form content or short form content. Long form would be like 2 minutes plus, and we will upload to YouTube or our website. And short form are like the reels, it's a minute and 30 seconds or less. And that would go on social media like Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts now. But we like to pick a topic, and from that topic, if it's long form, we do that. And then for short form, we decide if we want to do a reel or an animation. With the reel, it's usually like trending, and we want to do trending sounds and incorporate that more because that's where we get our brand awareness. We'll get more into that. But just like that, it encourages, interactions through comments, shares, and feedback to build a community around that content. And also consistent posting. Right now, with the videos, we would like to do at least 2 a week, one being an animation and one following the trend. This way, we don't overload our audience with too much information, even though it's good, but sometimes they get tired and we don't want to see that really. And we also track our analytics and we do it monthly.
Yes, yes. At the end of each month, I go through all of our posts, all of our metrics, and I put together a comprehensive document so that we can look at previous months. We'll dive into that a little bit later with some of these metrics. But we're able to look back through and see on a monthly basis what performed well, what didn't. There are these peaks and valleys. And as y'all know, there are a lot of bots out there. There are a lot of scammers. And so I know a lot of these social media companies have been cracking down on that. And so sometimes we'll lose followers and we'll go back and, see they're all from Saudi Arabia, and I don't think we have many LOSFA followers there who are actually engaging with our things. So it's always good to take mind of that and make sure that we're focusing on the right audiences and not putting too much stock into these peaks and valleys that we'll see. Yeah. We do have a video here. Do we have a picture of it? It should be embedded. I checked before. Yeah, I checked. Yeah. Oh, yeah, the feature was turned off. So just as a brief introduction before this plays, then these are some of our top reels. We didn't have space for all of them. We're coming up on the lunch hour, but these are some of our top reels that we had from February 1st this year through until this past Friday. It'll just kind of give y'all an idea for what we're doing for our reels and how we're staying top of mind in terms of viral trends and also staying informative. Yeah, it's on the screen, it's on the top there.
And y'all tested it in here on this?
I tested it before we got this. Yeah. We have a variety of different reels here to show y'all, mostly short form, as reels are, but also a little bit longer ones. That we were taking some advantage of with different partnerships and also just staying top of mind, like I said earlier, with the trends. Destiny's done a great job of incorporating different trending audio and staying top of mind with that as well.
This is not a video, this is a screenshot, so it must have messed up when it got transferred to the full screen. So we had to actually go look. And can you list the videos available so that people on YouTube? So they're unlisted right now. You can make sure they're also.
And I'm not the only one who can do it. But, I guess. Yeah.
to the state, and so you can see it.
Yes. We have.
So, so we weren't able to show those drills, we'll send y'all with that covering that, but I did want to go through just these numbers, so y'all are getting an idea of these. So, we did a variation off of the they not like us, but they not like LOSFA, which did great, though, you know, within the first day, did incredibly. And we'll dive into those metrics in a minute too, because you'll see a giant spike. In that, we got 919 views over Instagram. Facebook was about 8 views, and combined, it came out to a little over 6,000. The next one that did very well was also a LOSFA Spirit Tunnel. We did that kind of based on the Jennifer Hudson show viral video that had happened. So it was Fund Your Future, Follow Your FAFSA. So we shot that. It also did incredibly well combined. We got a little under 7K views. We also shot a Join Us Student Network group reel, which did fantastically as well, just under 5K barely. We also were trying to capitalize on a few of these viral memes, you know, with the Deadpool soundtrack playing in the background. And so we did one of those, which also did well, a little under 3K views for that. And we also had a couple more to show you that we haven't put out on social media. So we didn't have any insights for that, but I think y'all did enjoy it. We kind of did play off of the what's a commercial from the 90s, like FAFSA, you know, and it was a blast to shoot and a blast to edit. I couldn't stop laughing while I was editing. It's kind of the problem. But y'all, I think will enjoy that when we get to that. So
Talk about those. You talk about these.
So next we'll be moving on to our top social media graphics. So the first one that did really, really well is the Mildred D. Dickens High School Scholarship post. Views were 66.5K, huge amount of views. Our reach was about half of that. We had 381 interactions, which meant people actually clicked and read through that post. And the link clicks to actually navigate to learn more about this scholarship and only for. And that kind of brings me to my next point. You look at the FAFSA Friends Week, it also did incredibly well. Almost 32K views, reach is about 18K, 122 interactions, but only one person clicked on it. Yeah, please.
Do you have to click the link in order to see the information? Would that be a reason why it's only one click link with so many views? Like, are you able to just see it on your feed?
Yeah, so that's actually a huge point. If you can look at these numbers as well, you see an increase in link clicks, right? And so what we were able to gain from this insight was that when we put too much information on our posts, people don't feel inside to go and click those links. But if you look at these, you know, these are telling you basic information, but you need to go actually to visit the website to learn more. So I think the sweet spot that we're finding is that if we put just the right amount of information, it'll incite the audience to go and visit that page, but also still be informed by this. And we're keeping within brand guidelines for all of these as well. So if they go and visit our website, you know, it looks all cohesive across each one. So this was also another video. I can assume that this won't play either.
And when we combined it with this presentation, converted the videos to image. So Destiny's coming up there to be able to pull up YouTube and shit.
We embedded the views were the programmatic dirty. These were more the long. So we can just dive into these insights. I've already covered some of this as well. That basically leads to the overall engagement for our videos. It's not a surprising fact. And when we go and look at our audience demographics, you'll see why. But this is mostly an older audience. It averages a little over 80% or more, or over 90%. Women around 45 to 54. So what we're seeing with that is that these are probably mothers looking at their children. The dads, it doesn't seem, are too involved in this process. But when you look at Instagram, though, we do see that this is a lower engagement rate. And it's lower pretty much all across the board, but it's all for the same content. So this is telling us that we need to tweak these metrics just a little bit, the way that we're posting, different hashtags, different viral audio. Because this is a younger demographic. This is averaging around 35 to 45, also primarily women instead of men. So all of these important and fun videos, they're culture relevant, pop culture references, are keeping us relevant, keeping us top of mind. We also need to remember that it's important to stay informative, not too informative. We also want to come to this our page. And when you look at the top 5 graphics, it's about the same. An average of over half of our views came from non-followers of the page. You know, it's about 60%. So that's a huge untapped market. And, you know, like I mentioned earlier, some of those might be bots. We don't know until it's too late sometimes. But at the same time, that is a wider audience. So I've been going through manually for all of our posts for the past 2 years. And I've been manually going through who reacted to these posts, who engaged. And then I'm manually inviting them to follow our page. And since I started doing that, we have seen an incredible increase. This has also coincided with a big bot sweep from both of these platforms. So it's kind of evening out about a net following of maybe around 16 to 18 people, but we're getting there. So this suggests, you know, what we talked about earlier with all the information in the post. I think we'll see an increase in these numbers as time goes on. Same sheet. So as I mentioned earlier, here's the age and gender breakdown for Instagram and Facebook. We have about 2.6 K followers on Instagram and a little over 52K on Facebook. And as you see from these bar graphs, there is a huge disparity in terms of the amount of men versus women. These age, you know, brackets play directly into the usual age brackets for these platforms. And here's something that I thought was incredibly interesting. So when you look at the overall video metrics, and this is from February 1st of this past year. So you see just the straight line. We're not really getting any engagement. That little first spike, that comes from when Destiny put out the first like trending audio, trending viral video. This was the dimmer trend that was happening around that time. So we see a little spike there. Then I join around the end of November. We start working together on this. And as you can see these peaks slowly start to rise up. So my prediction is as we keep going, we're just going to see this get higher and higher. People want our content. It's just a matter of finding the ways to get it to them. So here are the overall metric insights for Facebook. And as you can see, you know, deep peaks, deep valleys. But at the same time, when you look at the metrics for the actual videos that we put out and in the videos, we have the dates for when those premiered. So let's look at March 13th for example, March 13th and 14th, biggest spike across all the platforms. And that is when the Not Like Us video came out. So we can visually see how much of an impact we are having across our audience base with this. And here's the same thing for Instagram. Just ignore the link clicks because that's not applicable here. People will go to buy after that. So we can't really measure that necessarily here. We have to go to the website for those metrics. But as you can see, again, deep peaks, high peaks, deep valleys. But we see the same spikes every single time across these. We're making good engaging content that is resonating with our audience base. But it's also important, you know, I like to think of advertising marketing like this, like making a cake, right? You can have all the right ingredients to make the best cake you've ever eaten. But, you know, sometimes it doesn't turn out great. It could be posted on the wrong day, you know, maybe you forgot one little ingredient. Maybe you opened the oven too early and then it falls flat when you take it out. You know, it's important not to make things oversaturated with content or else it will fall. It's important to stay top of mind and not too top of mind. We want people to still want to see your content. And here are our future plans. Shane, I wasn't sure if you also wanted to dive into this as well, but we have a number of different future plans coming up for the Amplify Student Voice and Testimonials. We're going to showcase a bunch of different students. We've already kind of started doing this with our reels with the day of the life that the Testimonial put together. Fantastic work on that. And we're also going to start highlighting the parents' perspective of things. We're seeing a lot of content these days with things from the students. We didn't ever hear about how the parents were impacted. So I think that's an untapped part of it. We're also starting a Tops video series that we've been working on, but a short and long. And, the great thing about long form content is we can take snippets of that to put on our Instagram and Facebook stories. But then inside the video, click that link in the story, we're gaining traction, we're cross marketing all over the place. And I think we'll see a really good spike in that as well. We also have a FAFSA video series that we plan to do. We've been starting the steps on as well for just step-by-step guidance. A lot of students get confused by this. It's a confusing time in general, especially that time of their life. And sometimes the parents aren't really informed even if they think they are, especially with all the changes that are happening nationwide. So I think it's important just to make sure things are up to date and we're educating our audience with the right materials. In terms of program overviews, we're also doing a very similar thing in terms of quick, visually driven overviews. We don't want to get bogged down at the minutia. We want them to travel to our website to get back. And in terms of service overviews, it's a pretty simple thing as well. We just want a clear breakdown of all the services we can offer in a visual way. 529 savings programs are also going to offer information on using the START and Start K-12 savings programs. We have heard from a number of different parents throughout our partnerships about how they want that information, and we can see that numbers metrics as well. Our trending video content, we do plan these things out. We do have a system for this, but sometimes something drops and a week later it's viral, and we've got to capitalize on that trend immediately because next week it's going to be gone. So it's important to always leverage these popular trends and make sure that they're staying top of mind visibility, but also culturally relevant. LOSFA University is another incentive as well. We're producing high quality training videos for the staff, school counselors, and financial aid professionals to make sure that they're getting all the right information so that that information can then get out to the students and parents.
And one thing that we've heard recently is that a lot of parents do not want to attend the TOPS presentation. They want the information to be available through videos for them to watch it on their own. So we're trying to be responsive to that want as well.
And exactly, and along those same lines too, I think it's a little over 80%. I think it's 82% of overall viewers on Facebook and Instagram don't have their volume. They're scrolling in silent. And so it's important to always be sure to have the captions there. Destiny's done a great job of making a bunch of different animations that are engaging, exciting, and relevant, but also providing the information without having a narrative source behind it. So people are visually learning while also having the option to auditory. We have a lot of more sponsored content as well coming up. We're partnering with schools and organizations to co-produce content, which you'll see in one of these unreleased reels. We're creating different branded video segments promoting shared incentives and initiatives across these platforms and organizations. We're using sponsored social posts to boost our program visibility. A lot of this, if not all, has been organic growth. So once we start paying for these, getting some boosts, even just $20 a month with geofence, will make a world of difference. We're also highlighting different LOSFA presence at events with different recap videos, usually about 30-ish seconds. Just quick recap videos, remind people how to do the time they had. And we're also running more paid campaigns in the future to reach target students and parent audiences within our top cities like Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Lake Charles, Lafayette, not Saudi Arabia, but maybe next year.
Thank you very much. So Destiny's going to look at this video up. So Joe, any questions?
Yeah. Thanks, Sean. Oh my gosh. Perfect timing.
The sound works.
I saw that one.
Yeah.
Me too.
See, even without the audio, you're watching it, you're getting the information. Here's one of our unreleased ones. These are our telephone partners. And Dustin put together these great animations for this. So those are some of our real examples.
Some of the problematic videos, I don't know what him mentioned about social media trends, but a lot of those come from the staff. Like they see stuff and they want to participate in and report for our social media. So it's nice to work with open-minded people who want to do fun things. Also on that collab we had with the California Student Aid Commission, we got a call from Sarah Beth, who's the marketing coordinator, and she liked our Rough Fire Boston shirts, and I think that, just sparked the interest in like the content we do and the shirts, and at first she wanted to do like a phone call, but I was like, let's make it, a little spicy. So at first it started off as like a State Farm kind of thing, like, oh, this is Jake from State Farm, but then we switched it to I don't know if you ever saw like the Budweiser commercial, but it was just like an ode to that. And this is our programmatic videos.
Wait, and don't procrastinate. Start working on scholarships and applications as early as possible. Just don't procrastinate.
My favorite part was we got to search out like one college that we wanted to go to, and we searched up like things that we would do to that college.
The whole experience was cool for me. When we did the survey, I felt like all the stuff matched up. So I just felt like I was right where I needed to be.
What I need, on the bottom, one college I got to, which is, it's part of the digital marketing campaign. Much more engaging than just a static
Yes.
presentation. You have some on the banner ads, on ads and slides, and websites, and then our social media platforms. So, thank you, Ann and Destiny, very much for your work on this. I appreciate it very much. So,
Some new business. One is the adoption of meeting dates. So we need a motion to approve the meeting dates for, July 2025. They're August 6th, September 17th, October 29th.
I moved.
I second.
My name's.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nay? Motion carries. Then the last is, for Thompson and J. Foster promise exception, you should have the exceptions in your packet. So a motion to consider the attached request for exception to the Thompson regulatory provisions. That require students to remain continuously enrolled and to earn the annual credit hours required during the academic year. And to the J. Foster requirement that a student maintain continuous enrollment in LOSFA. Robin, anything to add for any of those before we have a motion?
Actually, Ms. Coleman had requested that I explain what happened to Jesse, number 2. So, Jesse was dually enrolled in 2 post-secondary schools. We are still not positive that what was reported to us is wrong. But he did enroll in 2 separate schools. We got some information from one of the schools that is what is presented here. And then he enrolled full-time in spring and earned 13 hours. So he didn't earn his hours in fall 23, assuming that what they reported is correct, but we don't have the grades from the different school yet. And we've been working with them to get those. So at this point, it's more of an issue that students' award has been canceled because we are not giving appropriate cooperation. Because it looks like he didn't enroll.
I just couldn't understand it because usually you get something that the student said this has happened and all of this, and this one's just an anomaly, so thank you.
Questions on anybody else?
Motion to approve. We got, Patrick, second, Brad. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Nays?
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed who approved the first, who did the first meeting. Okay.
All right, in, oh, I just have a request. Because of like all of the retirees, like that, can we get like an email that just tells us all the people we need to reach out to? Like, or the email, like, our financial aid director, maybe I just need it. I just know the people I reach out to. Sometimes. So like when Paula Davis retired, or is it NJ Foster email address, or is it a specific person? Like who are our contacts for questions about TOPS or NJ? An updated thank you. That would have been a better way to have an updated contact list of all of them. And or the appropriate email addresses that we should check out. That would be helpful. Thank you. All right, any other business? Motion to adjourn?
My motion.
Got Christie, and we got a second from Lindsay. Motion carries. We did it.